Hello, everyone. This is Logan Lockhart from the Sports Wrap, and welcome to the BarnBurner TV network on Zingo TV channel 250. Please remember to download both the BarnBurner and Zingo TV apps in the respective app store on iOS and Android devices. And while you download, make sure you rate and leave a comment. Remember, both apps are absolutely free. And leave a comment. We always love to hear how the apps are working. A welcome to you on this Tuesday, July 28th. So much to talk about. You have a Blue Jay game going on right now. You have baseball news coming from left and right that I'm going to get to, of course. You have NHL exhibition games starting tonight. You have NFL players opting out of the 2020 season. You have NBA just getting ready to get going here. That's another league that's coming back. Before I get into it all, I got to remind you that Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire and Fire TV sticks. Roku and Roku sticks are also on all smart TVs 2016 and forward. And here we are. Let's do this. There's a lot to talk about in 25 minutes here on the Sports Wrap Primetime Chair. I'm going to run through it all. And I start today with Leafs Habs exhibition game in Toronto, one of the hub city for the East Coast. And we all get it started today. Now, you did have the Flyers and the Penguins. Now, their game, 2-2, end of the third right now. And with the Leafs and Habs, this is the second of three exhibition games that you will see on the NHL calendar tonight, with the Oilers and Flames going at it at 10:30. So here we go. Exhibition games. Now, we saw this in the MLB. We're seeing it in the NBA right now with the scrimmages. But, these are not your usual, whatever you want to call them, preseason or exhibition games, spring training games. This isn't the usual. Okay, these are actually significant games to an extent. And there's a lot I'm going to be looking at when it comes to the Leafs and the Habs, particularly on the Toronto side, because let's be honest about Montreal. They were 10 points out of a playoff spot. They were kind of thrown into this horrible deal. Montreal, it'd be a miracle if they started winning games here, especially against the Penguins, and that's who they play in their qualifying series. But with the Leafs, there's a lot of things I'm looking out for today. First of all, Frederik Andersen, who's projected to start in the net tonight. That is what the reports are indicating. And who knows, as I sit here right now and speak, that could have been confirmed already, as the game is at 7 o'clock. But Frederik Andersen historically has gotten off the slow starts. That's why I say this is a significant exhibition game. If you're the Toronto Maple Leafs, you need your goaltender to have a strong start. You can't have the regular early starter, Frederik Andersen, in the net when they get going against Columbus on Sunday night. That you just can't have that. Okay, so that's why tonight is important. I'm going to be looking at Frederik Andersen. He's got to be sharp. Okay, and if he struggles tonight, I think it's concerning. Okay, and I don't want to hear the excuses afterwards. Oh, it's just an exhibition game. It's significant. These guys haven't been on the ice since March competitively. So, of course, this is a significant exhibition game, and we're jumping right into the playoffs. Okay, we're not easing into anything here. So tonight's very significant. You can look at it as a regular season game, the finale of the regular season. This is the test to see if you're going to be on a roll going to the playoffs. Now, it's only one game, but still, you got to be sharp. Okay, so you can't throw it to the side and say, hey, it's only exhibition. Yeah, but you know what? This is actually significant. This is the last game that you're playing before the playoffs, quote unquote, qualifiers, and the first game that you've played in months. So very significant stuff. Now, Nick Robertson for the Toronto Maple Leafs, he is playing. And if you're not familiar with this kid, star in the OHL, Toronto Maple Leafs draft pick. This is a guy that has gotten some, a lot of talk around him as of late for his goal scoring in the OHL, playing in Peterborough, a good player, and the Leafs are throwing him into the fire here. He's going to get an opportunity to play. Of course, there's expanded rosters to an extent, and he is going to take advantage of that and find himself on the team. And for Nick Robertson, that's another thing I'm looking at tonight. I'm looking at Anderson. I'm looking at Robertson. Now, how are they going to use Robertson? Because, you could throw him hypothetically, let's say, on the third and fourth line once you get going against Columbus, if he's going to be, dressed. But we've heard what Sheldon Keefe has been talking about, utilizing that top six that the Leafs had to an incredible extent, to where you were double shifting those top six forwards at a pace that we haven't seen this Leafs team do in a long time. You have to take advantage of the talent you have up front if you're the Leafs. If they're going to win hockey games, it's going to be because that they can score goals. That's the only reason. And they know it. That's how they're going to win. So it's going to be interesting if Robertson. I'm looking forward to watching him. The Habs are the home team tonight. And this is a game in Toronto. Of course, they're the hub city, but the Habs will act as the home team. And this is becoming a theme of 2020 in a lot of lights here because, listen, you have the Toronto Blue Jays who are going to be playing a game in Washington tomorrow as the home team, but they're in Washington and they're playing the Nationals. And now you have the Habs in Toronto playing the Leafs as the home team. And this is just a great summary of what's going on in the sports world in 2020. This is not out of the normal here, and the Habs are using the Leafs dressing room reportedly, which I think is questionable at best. It's same thing with the Oilers in Edmonton. Why couldn't you create additional dressing rooms? Why do you have road teams, especially when they're playing the Leafs? They're using the Leafs dressing room, really? And that's besides the point. This is just all going to come at us differently. It's under the circumstances. You make best of what you have, and I guess that's what's happening. But Habs versus Leafs tonight at 7, exhibition. Every team is playing an exhibition game, and then we get this show on the road Saturday night, but for the Leafs, it's Sunday night. Columbus, game 1, of course, in Toronto, because they are the hub city. The Leafs will be the home team because they did finish with the better record in the regular season, the 2019-20 regular season. So the Leafs will act as the home team. But again, I guess the only advantage that you have is if you're a coach and you're the home team, you get the last change. Other than that, there's no advantage. It's much bigger of an advantage in baseball. I think it changes the game a little more when you bat last. You have that last at bat, let's say hypothetically in the bottom of the 9th, you can walk it off. I think it's a little different in baseball. You get more of an advantage. But definitely something to keep an eye on of who acts as the home team. Because again, we're playing at a neutral location here. So Leafs Habs tonight. Again, you had the Penguins and Flyers play an exhibition game. That just ended right now. The Flyers did defeat Pittsburgh in overtime. So the first exhibition game of this NHL restart is in the books. Flyers defeat the Penguins 3-2 in overtime. Now, the Jays are playing right now, and you have a situation here where Tanner Roark is getting the start, making his Blue Jays debut, and he's pitching against his former team. He did pitch against the Nationals last year when he was a member of the Reds, but it was in Cincinnati. So this is the first time he's actually in his old home ballpark of Washington. So Roark getting the start for Toronto. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., his first home run of the season. That was just about 18 minutes ago. He hit that ball out of the park to give the Jays a 1-0 lead. So it's 1-0 Toronto, and they won yesterday. And the Jays look good yesterday when you look at what they did from an offensive point of view of, you'll take solo home runs. You love to hit home runs when there's guys on base, but if you can take your solo shots, you'll take your solo shots. And the Jays hit 4 of them, 2 of them from Teoscar Hernandez last night. Jays defeat the Nationals 4-1. They improved their record to 500, 2-2. The Nationals sitting at 1-3. The Nationals, just let's talk about them for a minute. They're going to have to start winning quickly because there is urgency around the MLB and in a big way. You saw what happened with the Braves. They designated their pitcher for assignment, the All-Star in 2018. They designated him after 1 start, right? Because he struggled against a Rays yesterday. So, there's urgency. So if you're the Nationals, you got to start winning. They're in the top of the 3rd right now. 1 hit apiece for both teams. But of course, that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. home run, the difference right now in Washington, Jays win 1-0. And of course, they win 4-1 yesterday. And, you see a performance from Trent Thornton that wasn't bad. He limited damage when he got into trouble. The 1-run 4th inning from the Nationals, a little worrisome from the Jays' perspective. The Nationals were going to come back, but Thornton limited the damage. And, with a Toronto bullpen now that Charlie Montoyo seems to have faith in, a lot more than last year. And if you can just get a few innings out of your starter, and that's what Thornton provided, that's what you're going to need from the Blue Jays. So the Blue Jays Big win yesterday, of course, in a 60-game season. Every game you win, big. Tomorrow, Nate Pearson versus Max Scherzer. This is going to be the pitching matchup of the month in terms of Major League Baseball, because really, if you think about it, you have a phenom that we're calling him here in Toronto, and Nate Pearson make his MLB debut. And he's doing it against Max Scherzer, who might be a future Hall of Famer. He might be a future Hall of Fame pitcher, and now he's got a World Series to his name. We know how good Scherzer is. So if you're Nate Pearson, you got to be thinking, wow, I'm making my MLB debut tomorrow in the weirdest season of all time, and I'm doing it against Max Scherzer. So that's going to be a fun night tomorrow. I can't wait. Now, depending on what happens tonight with the Jays, if they can pull out this win, that'd be huge. Because again, the more games you win early on, the better shape you're going to be in. And they're going to act as the home team tomorrow, right? This is the last game. The Jays are acting as the road team. Let's say tomorrow the Jays are home. They're going to bat last. And that will be with Pearson on the mound. I can't wait. I know that we got a little bit of a look at him in that preseason game against the Red Sox. He was all right. He had a rough first inning. But we see the flashes of brilliance that Pearson has under his sleeve, and maybe knowing that this is now a regular season game, he won't hold as much back. He definitely held his velocity back in that preseason game. He can hit 100 with ease, and he didn't once in that preseason game. He was holding back, but now that it's regular season, he's going to make his debut. We might see a little more from Pearson, and it's very exciting. If you're a Blue Jays fan, you should be very excited about tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be must-see game. When you got Pearson versus Scherzer. And the Jays don't see Scherzer that often. Of course, if the Nationals being in the National League, they don't see that caliber of pitcher that much. It's like a few years ago, the Jays would never see Clayton Kershaw, right? It's Dodgers are in the National League. Same thing with the Nationals. So Pearson, Scherzer, very, very exciting. Let's go NFL here with the New England Patriots. And bad news. Listen, this is the player's choice. If you want to opt out of the season, all power to you. You can. Under the circumstances we're under, you can't expect any player to opt out and then, find a lot of pushback for that, because you know what, it is their decision. So big parts of the Patriots defense opted out today. Patrick Chung, who they just signed to an extension. And Chung, a veteran safety, but he's still effective. And the Patriots secondary might be the best in football. So now you lose Chung. And we know how important the Patriots defense is to the success of the team. That's why they were a playoff. They won the division last year in a division of a very good Buffalo team. They did it because of the defense. So now you have Chung opt out. Then you have Dante Hightower opt out. And the Patriots defense is looking, not as prolific than it probably should have been. But this is what is to come with the NFL. I think this is the only, just the beginning of it. If I'm going to, choose my words to how situation is going to play out, I would say this is just the beginning. These players, Chung and Hightower, they just might be ahead of the curve here. And you're going to see players more and more come out. And we've seen players over the last few weeks, more and more are opting out. And, we saw it with Major League Baseball at an incredible rate in late June. And now at the NFL, as training camps were supposed to begin tomorrow, they still haven't really pinpointed on a return to play plan. So in the NFL is a little dicey right now. We were all optimistic about the NFL, let's say 6 weeks ago, saying, hey, they're going to be fine. They're going to just sit back during the summer and watch what happens with the other leagues. The NFL is getting dicey. You have more and more players speaking out about the health risks that are attached to this season. Remember, there's no bubble with the NFL. They're doing what Major League Baseball is doing. And we see what's happening at Major League Baseball now with the Miami Marlins. So there's going to be health concerns. There's going to be risks attached to this whole ordeal. And the NFL, it's starting to come out now. And Hightower and Chung, who are two notable players, just opted out at the same time. And by the way, the Patriots have had players opt out earlier in this offseason, not as notable players, but now you have guys like Chung, Hightower. Who's next? Seriously, who's next? Imagine if you have a starting quarterback opt out, right? In baseball, we saw notable players opt out. and players that you think to yourself, hey, that's going to hurt that team in a big way. Okay, I think Buster Posey, for one, of San Francisco, who's past his years of being one of the best players in the league, but still, he's very important to that Giants team, and he opted out. It's a bit of a big name. I mean, what if you have a starting quarterback now who we're really excited to see just opt out, right? I mean, this is all coming, and as we approach August, which was supposed to be the preseason month, and the NFL season, let's not forget here, it's slowly approaching. It's creeping up on us. I know that we're focused on other sports right now, or we're just bringing in baseball, trying to get used to that. We're welcoming hockey back, basketball as well, but the NFL is right around the corner. And today was the start of what we can see as we move forward here. Players opting out. I mentioned the Marlins situation briefly. Let me get into it a little bit. Look, you have 4 more players test positive today, 4 more. And the number now is up to about 17 or 18. Excuse me if that number's off. I apologize, but it's in that range. And now you have the Marlins. Their games are suspended through Sunday, and the Phillies games are suspended through Friday. And of course, the Phillies played the Marlins. That was the last series that happened between those teams over the weekend. And that's why the Phillies are kind of lumped into this whole ordeal as well. Now, the MLB has done testing since this. No one's test positive. So the only positive tests right now are with the Marlins. That's kind of the only good news out of all this, and I hope everyone's going to be safe. I'm wishing that team well right now. That's really tough. Very difficult situation. But this is the situation we're in. Now, the Marlins, look, you got to treat every team equally. But I know the conversation has come up of, hey, it's just the Marlins. They're not going to be that competitive. If you just boot them out of this whole season, maybe that we have to do that. Now, I don't think that you should start booting out teams unless you really have to. Let's take this day by day in a sense, play it by ear. I know that it's difficult to do that when you hear all the news that's coming out, but you kind of got to play it by ear. Okay. It's very unfortunate with the Marlins. And now the MLB is forced to rework the schedule a bit. So now you have the Yankees go to Baltimore. The Yankees arrived in Baltimore today. They chose not to play today, not the team, but the league, they did their whole due diligence here and figured, hey, not today, but tomorrow. So the Yankees and Orioles will play tomorrow. That wasn't as originally scheduled. And the Yankees and the Orioles are the 2 teams kind of lumped into this whole ordeal because the Yankees were supposed to play the Phillies, and obviously the Phillies can't play now. And the Orioles were supposed to play the Marlins right now, and obviously they can't play right now. So the league has thought of an alternative here of, hey, let's just play Yankees and Orioles, and that will make up some of the games. I said this yesterday, and I'll say it again. We are running the risk right now of having teams playing. Some will play 50, some will play 45, some will play the full 60. But we're running the risk right now of not having every team play a full 60-game schedule, and that's going to bring up some controversy when we start looking at the playoffs. I know it will. That you're going to have people, they're probably already saying, hey, this is not fair at all. How come some teams have to play more games and some teams other? You have to understand that the circumstances are so difficult right now. This is just what you have to do. You got to make best of what you have. You have to deal with what is handed to you. And that's the end of it. Because you know what? I guarantee that you are going to have some teams who don't play 60 games, but it will be considered a completed season. They're going to have to go based on win percentage. They just are, because right now the Marlins are behind. They're going to miss the weekend now. And the Phillies are a little behind as well. So now you already have teams behind. Once one team has complications with this virus, whoever they were playing is also going to have the same complications due to, safety precautions. So you're going to have teams held back if this continues. And we're only about 6 days into the season. And look what's already happened. So look, it's a difficult situation, but the MLB is trying to make the best of it. Look, they've done the testing. No one's tested positive. The only players and staff, people that have tested positive are within the Marlins organization. Now you have the Yankees in Baltimore. So look, again, this is a day-to-day story. It's going to become the elephant in the room when we talk about baseball now. You have Ryan Braun of the Milwaukee Brewers have a quote today who said something that was quite interesting. Here's the quote, actually. I'll read it. It's very short. "That's real fear. There's real anxiety for me, for all my teammates." And at the end, he says, "I think we've found it very difficult to focus on baseball, at least at the last couple of days." So when you hear a quote like that, that just proves my point about, yeah, this is kind of the elephant in the room, because we're trying to play baseball, but you kind of can't play baseball when you hear stuff like this. So very unfortunate, but again, day by day, I'll be back here tomorrow, right in this chair, and we'll provide updates as we can. NBA, Raptors lost their final scrimmage game just about an hour and a half ago to Phoenix. That was a final. That's it. So the Raptors go 2-1 for their scrimmage games. And you know me, I'm not big on wins and losses and exhibition and this and that, preseason scrimmages. I just look for what's happening within the game. And the Raptors have shown that they are not afraid to go to that jumbo lineup, which will see them play a very big lineup on the floor, which I've talked about for the last few shows. You see a lot of teams in the NBA now going small ball, and the Raptors seem to be going in an opposite direction. And I think it's very interesting because, usually the Raptors are a team that would kind of go along with the trends. I think the Raptors can get away with it because their really good defensive players can also score. The Raptors are an advantage there, and a lot of teams don't have that luxury. A lot of teams build their rosters under the premise that, hey, we're going to be great defensively, but we might have to sacrifice a little bit on the offensive side of the ball. The Raptors know. The Raptors have a big advantage in that category because they can score, and they're a great two-way team. And Nick Nurse has really laid out something for that whole team for them to buy into, and they have. So good for the Raptors. Now, again, wins and losses don't matter. So I don't care that they lost to the Suns. It doesn't really matter. I barely looked at the scoreboard while I was watching this today. So that's it. The Raptors get going Saturday night, and their first game of the resumption of this restart is against the Lakers. So you're right off the bat, and the Raptors have a tough schedule to start this thing. But right off the bat, you got the Lakers. And the Lakers are obviously the favorite in the West. You can have the Clippers. Some people might say Clippers. I think the Lakers are the consensus right now in the West. And in the East, you have Milwaukee. So the Raptors they're going to have their hands full of the Lakers. The Lakers are motivated. And the Lakers are bound to go to the finals. Period in the story. It's just how it's going to go with the Lakers. Anything less would be a shock. I would even be shocked if the Raptors won that game Saturday. Because I think the Lakers might just come out guns blazing. Now, you have Anthony Davis now questionable for that game. Got poked in the eye in the last scrimmage. So that's going to throw a wrench into the Lakers' plans a bit because, of course, this LeBron Davis situation has been a hit. So that's going to throw a wrench into it. But again, Raptors Lakers Saturday night. Quickly here, a couple minutes before I wrap up here on the Sports Wrap in the Primetime Chair on the BarnBurner TV network and Zingo TV channel 250. Patrick Mahomes, here he is. This is a kid. I don't know in my lifetime if I have ever seen a player who's only played about 2 years become such a star so quickly. And now here's Patrick Mahomes. He joins the Kansas City Royals ownership group. So Mahomes getting in on all of it. And Mahomes, of course, has a connection to Major League Baseball. In a sense, his father was a pitcher for the Twins in the 90s. And Mahomes himself was a prospect at one point, a pitching prospect. And I believe he pitched a perfect game in high school, definitely high school. It might have been in college, it might have been in college, if jogging off my memory here off the top of my head. But he did pitch a perfect game at some level, Mahomes, and he was drafted by the Tigers in 2014. So Patrick Mahomes does have a baseball connection, and now here he is, the $500 million man, now joining the Kansas City Royals ownership group. Quickly, as I wrap up here, UFC, Khabib Gaethje, huge fight. Okay, there's McGregor implications going on here, of course. This is the division that McGregor's very interested in, but this fight has to happen first. Khabib Gaethje, that is set for October 24th. And Dana White has said that a venue has not yet been chosen, but that is definitely something to circle on your UFC calendars because that's going to be wild. And that has major implications all across the UFC. That is all for me on the Sports Wrap here on this Tuesday, July 28th. Blue Jays Nationals. Right now, it's 1-1. The Nationals have since tied the game with a run in the third inning. I will see you tomorrow at 4 o'clock for the weekly edition of Timeout with myself, Logan Lockhart, and then again at the Sports Wrap at 6:30 here on the BarnBurner TV network and Zingo TV channel 250. This show can also be heard on the BarnBurner radio network and its 122 platforms. Please check us out at barnburner.ca for all the news. BarnBurner, watch it, hear it, read it, download it, live it. Until tomorrow, this is Logan